Hi, I'm Dale and I'm part of the product marketing team here at ClickHouse, and today we're going to talk about ClickHouse's integration with the popular OSS visualization tool Metabase. Joining me today is our head of PM of integrations here at ClickHouse, Ryadh Dahiman. Welcome, Ryadh.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here.
Right, so let's get started. So we like to have a fairly mixed audience here. Some people familiar with ClickHouse, some people familiar with Metabase. So Ryadh, maybe you can just let both audiences know, like, what is each tool? What are the respective strengths of each of the tools?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. So it's very simple. On one end, you have ClickHouse, a very powerful OLAP column-oriented database that's designed to deal with billions of rows and answer in the millisecond scale. On the other end, you have Metabase, a self-service data visualization tool that allows you to build great visualizations without much knowledge of SQL, just by using the UI and asking actually questions. So you get an idea what happens when these two powerful platforms meet. Actually, it means that you give a huge querying power to users now, and that's what kept us busy in the last months.
Yeah, so one of the things that I've found quite refreshing about this particular tool is when I was first told there was a means of building visualizations without writing any SQL, I was quite skeptical. But I've been really quite pleasantly surprised, and I found it to be the workflows to be great, and it to be a really easy tool to use. So maybe you can just tell us a little bit about the journey over the last few months, and what are we announcing today?
Yeah, you're perfectly right. It's a very powerful experience, and we kind of had a hint into that when we started testing out. So what we've done is that we've invested a lot of engineering time, and we gave some love to this open source project, which was the Metabase ClickHouse connector. So we worked with the help of Felix, the open source project maintainer, to improve it, upgrade it, fix the rough edges and any open issues. And we're happy now to announce that we promoted this integration to the core stages, meaning that now we will maintain and support this integration as ClickHouse official one. And a side benefit of that is that we worked with our friends at metabase.com to include it in the list of default integrations available in their cloud offering. So it means that now anyone can have access to this experience simply by spinning up a metabase.com account, connecting to their ClickHouse service, and start asking questions.
Great, thanks. So I think, so we should say that we're going to do a full webinar of this on the 8th of March. So any of you who think this might be the tool for you, please do tune in, and we're going to do a very in-depth demo with our friends at Metabase, where you can also ask some questions and you can help familiarize yourself with the tool. But today we'd just like to give you a teaser for that webinar. So I'm going to give a quick demo of the integration, and then on the 8th of March you can join us for more detail. So, as I said, one of the things that I love about Metabase is how you can build both simple but also quite complex visualizations without writing any SQL at all. And I'm going to demonstrate one of those today. Hopefully the audience can now see my desktop or my window here, which shows the landing page if you log in to Metabase for the first time. Now I need to connect Metabase to ClickHouse. This is straightforward. You just simply go to admin settings, databases, and then add database. Now I'm going to connect to a ClickHouse Cloud cluster. ClickHouse Cloud is a serverless offering of ClickHouse. So for those of you that need an instance of ClickHouse to test this, we give you a free trial for $300 worth of credits, so you can sign up today. I simply I select my database type, I select ClickHouse, and then I need to give a display name, and then a database name. I'm just going to use the default database. I put in my host, and then the port, which is 8443. This is the secure SSL port, HTTP port for communicating with ClickHouse. Then I need to provide a username. I'm just going to simply use the default user for this cluster and select use secure connection once I put in my password. Okay, so let's connect. Now, what will happen now is that all of the tables inside of that ClickHouse cluster will be effectively synced into Metabase. What it's syncing there is not the actual data, just the schemas themselves. This cluster is quite large. It's got about 15 terabytes of data, well over 600 billion rows. So this can take anywhere between 10 and 30 seconds to sync all these schemas across. And I've got about 50 tables to sync. Great, well, it's done. So it's still quite fast, but if you've got a very large database, that may take a little bit longer. Now we exit, and we have a number of options, a number of ways that we can go about exploring data in Metabase. We're going to show you a lot more on the 8th of March, but I'm just going to use two techniques here. The first is I can just simply click Browse Data and then select my connection. And then I'm presented with all my tables. So you can see this is quite a large cluster, a lot of tables. But the data I'm going to use today is a full listing of all Wikipedia rows or Wikipedia pages from the start of this year, so 2023. I click Wiki, which is the table, and you can see my rows here. Now I'm going to do a pretty simple analysis, but I'm going to use NoSQL at all. So what I wanted to know was I was curious to see who are the top editors on Wikipedia and what do their contributions look like over time. And can I answer this without writing a single line? If you're a SQL DBA, or even if you're a business analyst, this is pretty straightforward SQL. But sometimes it's just nice to be able to do it without writing anything. So I should say that I have every page on Wikipedia for 15 languages. So the first thing I want to do is just restrict this to English. And to do this, I'm just going to select the lang column, filter by the column, and then I'm going to select is, and then the value English. So that restricts us to all the English pages. Now, what's also obvious is if I scroll down is I have a lot of rows here where they're empty. Let's exclude those so that we don't have an empty user in our results. So we're going to click filter by column again, and we're going to say not empty and save this. Now, I know that in this data, there's quite a bit of quite a few bots that are responsible for updating pages, and we don't want to give credit where credit's not due. So let's actually filter out any bots as well. So we can collect again, filter by this column, and we say does not contain bot. So let's just restrict this to just people. Okay, that's frustrating. And let's try that again. Let's remove all rows which are not people, so does not contain bot. Perfect. Okay, so it's worked this time. Great. And now let's actually summarize these rows. So a summarization in Metabase is basically a group by. So we just select summarize, and we want to group by username. Now, this gives to me in random order, arbitrary order. Let's actually sort that descending. And we've got the first answer, the first part of our question answered, which is who are the top contributors. There's one other filter I'd like to actually add here, which I'm just going to go to show editor. I also want to filter to just those that are actually articles. So there's a number of different types of rows here. For example, we have rows that are categories that represent category pages. I actually just want to restrict to just article pages. And to do that, I use this NS column, which is the namespace. And I know that the value for articles is 0. And I'm also going to limit to the top 10. Okay. So let's apply that. Right. Now this list, if you went and looked for the top 10 Wikipedia editors, this is pretty much the users that you'll find. And these people make huge numbers of contributions. Now to visualize this, I can select visualization, and I could maybe plot it as a bar chart. But as I said, I want to see what their contributions are like over time. Now I could go back to summarize, and I could potentially add the timestamped column, but that's going to give me single data points. So that doesn't really solve the problem. But let's see if we can actually use the answer to this question here in a larger question. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to call this top wiki editors and save that result. And let's not add this to a dashboard. And then finally, let's go to our analytics. Right, now I'm going to show another technique for building a visualization. Again, NoSQL, but this time I'm going to do what's known as a question in Metabase. So I simply select new question, I select my table, and I select, my database, then my table. And I know that I want the metric is I want count of rows. and I want them over time, and it's actually bucketed automatically for me by day. I'm going to make that month. And I know that I want to bucket by user. But I now need to restrict to the top 10 users. Now I didn't make a note of them, so I can't just do username and then type them all out, and that wouldn't be ideal anyway. But what I can do is I can actually join this question to my previous results. So here I could join to a table, but what I really want to join to is a saved question, which is my top Wikipedia editors. I'm going to make this an inner join, and then I'm just going to join on the username column. If I visualize this, I get roughly, well, that's pretty much what I wanted. So let's change the visualization to a bar chart, change the display, stack the results, and we're done. So what we've shown here is it's actually quite simple to build a reasonably complex visualization with NoSQL. Now, if you want to learn more, as I said, you can join us on the 8th of March. That's all we're going to show for today. And thank you and goodbye. Ryadh?
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today.